Let's go ahead and call the meeting back to order. I wanted to make sure you could hear me do that. Good afternoon. We'll now go to item number 7 on the agenda. Before we begin our discussion on number 7 regarding the restructuring proposal, I'd like to say a few words about the work President Cross, his team, and our chancellors have been doing in terms of bringing this plan forward. As you all know, I believe this board must be focused on reforms. Focus on reforms and be bold. Whether it's tenure or our executive hiring practices, it's our job to help bring the system into the 21st century. President Cross's proposal this afternoon is the next step in that effort. He and his leadership team have found a way to make our system more efficient and serve students and communities more effectively without closing any doors. Our chancellors have also stepped up to the challenge and offered innovative and exciting new possibilities for our two-year campuses. This also includes Chancellor Sandeen, who's not only led a significant effort to improve efficiencies and enact reforms at both colleges and Extension, but has also worked closely with President Cross and our other chancellors in the development of this proposal. I look forward to our discussion today. I applaud President Cross and his team and our chancellors for helping us think outside the box and for embracing reform. So at this point, I'll turn it over to President Cross. President Cross, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Regent President Bailing. This afternoon, I will present a proposal to restructure a major part of the University of Wisconsin system. It is potentially the most significant reorganization we've considered since 1971, the year of the merger that created this great system, the year of the merger. Just as it was back then, our primary concern is ensuring that this university is prepared for what might lie ahead, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and to ensure that we are in a position to best serve our students and the state of Wisconsin and its people. As we consider the future, we must better understand our current environment, the challenges we face, the things that matter most to our primary stakeholders, the people, communities, and businesses of Wisconsin. So I'd like to remind you of a portion of what I called my dream for the University of Wisconsin system that I shared during the introduction of our 2020 Forward Strategic Framework. My dream for the University of Wisconsin system and for the state of Wisconsin includes a future where the people of Wisconsin, regardless of their past experiences or financial circumstances, have an opportunity to earn a college degree. That means maintaining and even expanding access to the university, assuring affordability, continuing to simplify and streamline transferability, and providing enhanced advising so that we can grow the number of college graduates this state so desperately needs. It also includes a future where the communities of Wisconsin are places where people enjoy vibrant and well-rounded lives, and where community members are informed, engaged, and fulfilled. That means the UW system has long played a role in making that happen, and supporting and enriching local communities, helping their economies grow, enrich their culture, and serving their citizens, making communities more vibrant. That must continue. We also know that vibrant communities attract millennials, families, people, and businesses with big ideas and resources that Wisconsin needs to thrive in the future. Third part, my dream also includes a future where Wisconsin businesses and organizations are closely connected to the university through strong partnerships. These mutually beneficial partnerships are critical. As we continue our efforts to grow the number of college graduates in the state, we must also help to connect more students with Wisconsin employers to keep valuable talent, ideas, and resources in Wisconsin. I actually doubt that there are very few people in this room or across Wisconsin who would disagree with any of these dream items. To realize this dream or vision, we must better understand our changing environment. It starts with hard facts. As we discussed last month, Wisconsin faces some very pressing demographic challenges. Over the next 30 years, 95% of Wisconsin's population growth will be people age 65 and older. How might we better serve that segment of our population? Conversely, the state's population between the ages of 18 and 64, the traditional workforce years, is projected to remain essentially flat. The anticipated growth rate hovers at about 1%. So how might we better serve and more effectively attract and retain citizens in that population group? At the same time, the demand for college-educated workers is stronger than it has ever been, and the demand is expected to grow significantly. The Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce projects that by 2020, 62% of the jobs in Wisconsin will demand some post-secondary education. Unfortunately, this is contrary to most anecdotal stories the public hears. The dilemma is clear. While demographics indicate we will have fewer working-age adults in the state, we will also need more of them to be college-educated. Exacerbating these challenges is yet another demographic reality. The population is increasingly shifting from rural locations to urban centers. Rural and smaller communities are facing significant challenges in their efforts to retain and attract people. This is a national trend, and the upper Midwest states are experiencing this more severely than most. Additionally, fewer and fewer students in rural areas are pursuing college degrees. According to the National Center for Educational Statistics, while 42% of the people age 18 to 24 are enrolled in some form of higher education, only 29% come from rural areas, compared to nearly 48% from more urban areas. Together, these trends reflect our changing environment. The university has a long history of adapting to change, from helping the state become an agricultural and dairy powerhouse, or one of the country's leading manufacturing centers, or home to the latest high-tech enterprises for advanced imaging. The UW system has always been committed to working with and for the people of Wisconsin. Now, to help invigorate the state's economy and enhance the quality of life for all of our citizens, we must find a way to maintain and expand access to our university, and to keep it affordable for Wisconsin students and families. We must work to ensure that the University of Wisconsin system is the place to go for the high school student in Racine, the single mother of two in Toma who wants to return to school, the 45-year-old in Pestigo who wants to change careers, the father in West Bend who wants to complete his degree but cannot quit his job to do so, and the aspiring entrepreneur in Marshfield who may have the very next big idea. All these people have dreams, and it is the UW system's goal to help these dreams become reality. Over the years, the UW colleges have played a vital role in making these dreams come true by carrying out one of our core missions, bringing higher education to the people of Wisconsin, as well as providing a place for them to come for higher education. With their distinct transfer mission, lower cost, diverse regional presence, and the devotion of their faculty and staff to this noble mission, the UW colleges exemplify the UW system's commitment to providing wide access to affordable, quality higher education for all Wisconsin residents. The enrollment challenges facing the UW colleges are not new. We annually discuss all enrollment numbers and trends at board meetings. Last month, we turned our attention to the 32% decline overall in the number of full-time equivalent students at the UW colleges since 2010. On some campuses, the decline is over 50%. Clearly, the status quo is not sustainable. The UW colleges, under the leadership of Chancellor Sandeen, have enacted major reforms and restructuring efforts over the past 3 years to help manage their declining enrollments and the concurrent budget reductions. These efforts have been both courageous and extensive, and we commend them for their leadership in the face of these challenges. We thank the faculty, the staff, and students of the UW colleges and their local communities for all of their hard work. Unfortunately, with lower enrollments and limited revenues, it will become increasingly more difficult for some campuses to offer the array of diverse courses needed to sustain a quality liberal arts degree if we stay on the same path. Therefore, we must consider whether the current structure of the UW colleges within the UW system is appropriate. I submit that we have 4 restructuring options. Option 1, do nothing. Maintain the status quo. We probably could maintain the status quo for another 2 years, maybe 30 months, but that's it. Period. The changes already implemented in the UW colleges have allowed them to continue to operate, but they are rapidly approaching the limits of viable sustainability. Waiting another couple of years would further drain available resources, making any future transition even more difficult. Option 2, close a few of these campuses. Let me be blunt. Closing campuses would violate one of our core principles, our commitment to provide quality higher education that is accessible and affordable no matter where you live in Wisconsin. The demographic challenges, coupled with the need for a more college-educated workforce, only reinforces the importance of continuing to provide and to prioritize access and affordability for our current and future students. Furthermore, closing campuses would remove a vital economic and cultural anchor in these communities. Indeed, our presence in these communities has never been more important. We need them, and they need us. Option 3, merge UW's 2-year campuses with the state's technical colleges to create a community and technical college system. While this idea has been around for some time, it would be incredibly complex financially because of the different funding sources and systems for the 2 entities, and there would be unknown ramifications for taxpayers. A merger with a technical college system also would require legislative approval, another potentially lengthy process. Additionally, some argue that a merger with the tech colleges would detract from the distinct missions of each system. A focus on the liberal arts might distract from a technical education focus, or vice versa. Finally, such a merger would compromise our commitment to maintain a meaningful UW presence in communities around the state. Option 4, the proposal I am presenting to you today. We are proposing to integrate the UW colleges with a number of the UW system's 4-year comprehensive and research institutions. As part of a broader restructuring, we would move the Cooperative Extension Division within UW Madison and move the 3 remaining divisions of UW Extension directly under UW System Administration. The primary objectives of integrating UW colleges with the other institutions include the following. First, maintaining and expanding access to higher education at the 2-year campuses. Maintaining and expanding access. Second, continuing to identify and reduce barriers to transferring credits within the UW system. We must improve transferability. Third, maintaining affordability and continuing current tuition levels at the 2-year campuses. Affordability is critical, and it's an important aspect of access. Fourth, further standardizing, consolidating, and regionalizing administrative operations and services. And fifth, leveraging these resources and shared talent at our institutions in a regional fashion. The UW system has been engaged in ongoing consolidation and streamlining efforts as part of our commitment to operational reform and excellence. We call it CORE, to that agenda. The intersection of the CORE agenda and the restructuring of UW colleges and extension will allow for even greater standardization of processes across campuses and the consolidation and regionalization of services. The primary purpose of this proposed restructuring is not to save money. However, over time, these efforts will generate savings due to greater operational efficiencies while improving services provided to students, faculty, and staff. We all know that any restructuring, regardless of the type of organization, requires a settling in period. It will take some time before we can identify actual savings. We are here today to ask for your support in moving forward with this proposal. We could continue to study this for months or even years before coming to a decision. In fact, some have suggested that this is what we should do. We recognize this is a significant and important change for the UW system, particularly for our students, our faculty, and staff, as well as the communities we serve. But the challenges we face will not change. We could engage in additional debate, but will that change the demographics? Would further study generate more options? Would our commitment to the foundational principles of access, affordability, and community engagement change with further study? I believe the answer to these questions is no. We might identify nuanced variations of the available options, but we can do most of that during the implementation phase should the board adopt this restructuring proposal. The proposed restructuring is the one viable option that allows us to uphold our core principles while also serving the most pressing needs of our students and the state, both now and in the future. It will give us new tools to move forward despite the challenges. It also will allow us to maintain the university presence in these communities, to bring new programming to some of these communities in discipline-focused areas, and it will allow us to share regional resources to improve our efficiency and effectiveness over time. I should emphasize, this is a proposal to help us move toward a vision for what we want the University of Wisconsin system to be in the future. We do not have a fully developed plan with all the details worked out. This is a proposal. It's not a plan. Should you approve this restructuring proposal, we will move forward to engage shared governance, including students, faculty, staff, and administrators, as well as businesses and community leaders and other stakeholders to develop that comprehensive plan and the implementation process. Within that context, I would like to lay out in broad strokes the basics of what we are proposing. As mentioned, the cornerstone of the proposal is the integration of the 13 campuses within the UW colleges into a four-year comprehensive or research UW institution, effective July 1 of 2018. You can see on the map the proposed realignments. A variety of factors were examined in coming up with these pairings, including geographic proximity, transfer rates, existing partnerships, and programmatic compatibility, as well as the opportunity to grow local communities. The UW Colleges Online would remain a separate entity within its move to the UW System Administration. Our proposal also calls for divisions currently under UW Extension, General UW Extension, to be reassigned to UW Madison and to be moved under UW System Administration. More specifically, the Cooperative Extension Division of UW Extension and the UW Extension Conference Centers would become units within UW Madison, the state's land-grant institution. This alignment would be consistent with the practice in other states, including Illinois, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, just to name a few. It also provides greater opportunities to connect the important applied work of extension agents with evidence-based research at UW-Madison. Other divisions of UW Extension would be moved as units under UW System Administration. These include the Division of Business and Entrepreneurship, the Division of Broadcasting and Media Innovation, which includes Wisconsin Public Television and Public Radio, and the Division of Continuing Education Outreach and E-Learning, including the UW Flexible Option. Let me reiterate some of the key aspects of this restructuring proposal. All UW colleges' campuses will continue providing associate degree programming, just as they are today. In fact, we want to bring more classes to our two-year campuses, including the possibility of offering upper-level courses on-site where demand exists, and it does exist. Our goal is to expand the opportunities available to students and to attract more students into the educational pipeline. Keeping campuses open also means we maintain a UW presence in communities across the state, where we can continue to focus on unique regional needs while leveraging the strengths of the entire UW system. Second point, credits will transfer to all UW institutions as they do now. The goal is to make the process even easier and smoother, which would help students advance through and complete their college experience at whichever UW institution they choose. Third, tuition levels at the UW colleges will stay affordable. Post-integration, post-restructuring, we would maintain the existing lower tuition levels for classes currently offered at the two-year institutions as part of our ongoing commitment to access and affordability. Fourth, administrative operations and services can be further standardized, regionalized, and consolidated, reflecting our commitment to operational reform and excellence. This will generate savings in the long term due to greater operational efficiencies. We recognize the proposed restructuring of UW colleges and extension is generating a lot of questions and anxiety. This is normal. While this proposal is clearly in the early stages, we have developed a restructuring website. There is a link on our homepage, wisconsin.edu, where we try to provide as many answers as we can, as quickly as we can. We will continue to update this webpage as new information becomes available. We also provide a place for people to submit questions and comments that would help to further inform and refine our planning efforts. Again, if this board approves the proposal, we will proceed to fully engage with shared governance stakeholders, our students, our faculty, our staff, campus communities, as well as other stakeholders, to explore this opportunity in greater depth and develop the plan and implementation process. In fact, if the board approves this proposal, the steering committee, as you see in the center of that graphic, will meet very quickly to begin the implementation planning process. This proposal empowers us to meet the challenges we face while upholding the UW system's longstanding commitment to provide wide access to affordable, quality higher education for all Wisconsin residents. I've always believed in the mission and the responsibility the University of Wisconsin system has to ensure we are a university focused on meeting the needs of our students, the state of Wisconsin, and its people, now and in the future. I believe this proposal will help us do that. I'm asking for your approval to help keep moving Wisconsin forward. Thank you, President Bailey.
Thank you, President Cross. At this time, we'll hear testimony on this proposal from a number of key stakeholders, including representatives of shared governance, members of county government, local chambers, and of course our chancellors. Each individual will have at least 3 minutes to present. After everyone's testimony is complete, my colleagues on the board will have the opportunity to follow up with questions for President Cross, as well as myself. To get us started, I'd first like to invite representatives of the university's shared governance to come join us at the table. Please welcome Stefan Beers of UW Extension, representing academic staff, Dr. Holly Hassel of UW Colleges, representing faculty, Jeremy Johansky of the UW System Service Center, representing university staff, and Nick Weber, a student at UW Eau Claire. Thank you for coming and thank you for joining us. Stefan, let's have you go first. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share perspectives from the academic staff professionals who make up roughly 35% of all University of Wisconsin employees. While there is no simple way to represent the opinions of over 15,000 people, I can at least identify two groups and share the points we think are most salient to your deliberations today. First, there are those of us within the organizations being restructured, UW Extension and UW Colleges. If there is one idea I ask you to consider, it is this. Treat the entities within UW Extension as trees, not seeds. Trees are complex organic systems that are more than the sum of their individual parts, and our trees are flourishing. Continuing education outreach and e-learning is delivering higher education online to over 8,000 students, including 1,400 through the UW Flexible Option Program who wouldn't normally find a place in higher education. Programs like this require agile development and integrations with multiple institutions to succeed. As we heard earlier today, Broadcasting and Media Innovations offers world-class content through 34 radio stations and television programming that reaches 1.4 million viewers because it has crafted a distinct entity apart from any single institution. Cooperative extension and business and entrepreneurship actively manifest the Wisconsin idea by taking education out of the classroom and into the homes, farms, and businesses of Wisconsin because they are actively grounded in local communities across the state. UW Extension's divisions have put down deep roots and matured over a long time. As a side note, I'm proud to say that the independent learning program at CEOEL was already 25 years old by the time that radio broadcast went out from UW Madison that we heard about earlier today. We foresee opportunities ahead, as long as each entity retains a meaningful identity true to its mission. We cannot be reduced to seeds to be planted elsewhere. Help us make this transition with our identities intact into new and more favorable soil so that we can continue our mission-driven commitment to workforce and educational development. Second, there are academic staff outside of UW Extension and UW Colleges who see both opportunities and challenges ahead. We are excited to make education more accessible and more affordable to rapidly changing audiences. We also ask that given the aggressive restructuring timeline, we as an institution devote time and resources to the difficult yet important conversations that must accompany such large-scale change. Conversations about consistency in how four-year campuses integrate, fund, and operate their new two-year partners. Conversations about how service is currently centralized in UW Colleges and UW Extension, such as HR, libraries, IT, and more, will be integrated and budgeted in their new four-year homes. Conversations about how existing shared governance bodies can continue to have a meaningful voice. Honest and transparent discussions on pay scale differences and positions that may be eliminated. As one academic staff member told me, we see opportunities, but only if handled in a thoughtful, deliberate, respectful, and transparent process. Respect our identities, be willing to have difficult conversations. Let us move ahead and continue to expand our reach throughout the state and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hassel, could you go next?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. I've served as the UW College's faculty representative to the system for the last 2 years. In that time, I have attended most board meetings. I have regularly heard the goals and ambitions of our campuses described as focused on attracting and recruiting talent and attracting the best and brightest. This is true whether the board and UW leaders are referring to students, faculty, administration, or staff. I note that today because I want to invite you to consider another set of values for what the UW does as I offer my thoughts on the impact of the merger proposal on the UW system. As the 14 two-year campuses located throughout the state, the UW Colleges has never been about serving only top talent or as only for the best and brightest. We cultivate and we grow talent in the places that we are. We serve the needs of the communities and the surrounding areas where we're located, and we bring what a UW education has to offer to those places. Our campuses have recognized that place-bound adults or traditional single-age parents cannot and should not have to uproot their lives to attend college. In 2016, 2017, 94% of UW College's students were Wisconsin residents. Contrast this with UW-Madison, where just 55% of its students were Wisconsin residents. Students like the ones I am teaching this semester in my section of English 101, critical reading and college writing. Last week, after this announcement, I asked my students to write down the answer to one question: why is UW-Marathon County the right place for you right now? Almost all of the students in the class identified affordable tuition as an important reason. One student wrote, quote, "A large reason I came to UWMC was cost. I live in Wausau already, and on top of that, I found an entry-level job in the IT field, allowing the student to avoid student loan debt." I'll note that I asked students permission to use their words in this statement. Another student, Jacob from Mosinee, Wisconsin, wrote, quote, "Ever since I was very young, my parents have preached to me the importance of going to college and getting a degree, although I don't even think they knew how hard this could be in this day and age due to high costs with a low income." A third student cited having grown up in the area and watching her mother attend UW Marathon while the student herself was in middle school. Several of the students cited how important it was for them that there was a local college because of the responsibilities they have to immediate family or dependents, while others cited small class sizes and professors who could, according to my student Remington, a future agronomy major, quote, "connect with me and help me out if I'm struggling." Shay from Athens, Wisconsin, likes that she, quote, "knows everyone's name in her classes." Another student from Lac du Flambeau cited the importance of the campus being affordable, close to home, as well as offering him the chance to play basketball. He reported that the cost of going directly to UW Stout, where he hopes is eventually his transfer destination school, would be $33,000 for his general education courses, which he said was not affordable for me and my family. I'm thankful that the current resolution asserts a commitment to college affordability and the tuition differential at the college's campuses. However, I hope that future boards and receiving chancellors will recognize and think carefully about how any future adjustments to branch campus tuition will effectively price most of the students we serve out of higher education altogether. The students at my campus and other UW Colleges campuses work hard. They don't take their education for granted or feel entitled to it. My students want to be teachers, nurses, engineers, and small business owners. They come to our campuses because we create opportunities for a life and a career that is rewarding, that will offer stability, and a way to support their families. They plan to live in the communities where they grew up or nearby. The UW College's campuses build talent, build capacity, and build stability in our state. As you consider the results of this proposal in the future, when our UW system leaders report back on how they have acted on and assessed the merger in an effort to make good on the promises to increase access to a four-year degree and improve transfer for students, I hope that you remember the stories and the goals of Shay, Jacob, Remington, and their classmates, and that you remember what they said that they need in a university: affordability, access, support, personal attention, and community roots. I have always been proud to work for the UW Colleges. As a first-generation college student myself, I share intensely the goals and dreams of the students who come to our campuses, and I hope as a system we will continue to prioritize access to all students who want to work hard and pursue self-improvement to support their families and build their communities. You are here today voting on a proposal that will affect the lives of these students and their futures. I hope that the board and our main campus chancellors will indefinitely honor the access and affordability for UW education that the colleges has provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hassel. Mr. Johansky, would you like to go next? Thank you.
As of the recent October 27th governance meeting, President Cross was able to provide governance representatives with a fair overview of this proposal, so that we were at least aware of the changes brought forth today. What we heard was a mix of budget concerns, restructuring news and topics, and those concerns caused the anxiety and fears that are prevalent at all the institutions that many of our governance reps have become familiar with and accustomed to hearing at this point. What we learned are, with this proposal, students are largely the winners and need to be. the access to education, as Ray mentioned, is one of the most vital aspects that we have to offer. The communities secondarily win as well. Keeping the access points in their communities engages economy across the state. What we question are the concerns that lie with university staff representatives that I am here as a result of today. As you can imagine, the amount of concern without details as to what the restructuring options are going to look like in each regional entity has created a number of anxiety points. You should have received in your folders today a copy of some of those points and statements that were raised by a number of the university staff representatives that I drafted for you all to review. We don't have time to cover them all today, but they deserve to have a voice, so I made sure that they were all presented to all of you. Pending the approval of this proposal today, I do have a request so that shared governance can have the access and participation that was guaranteed to us within this proposal. University staff has a unique position in that we've all attended meetings that go past our scheduled time allotment. University staff have work rules and hours that we cannot supersede without prior approval. We have supervisors that need prior authorization and notice from us to attend such. We want to be engaged. That's why I myself am here today. I want to be engaged, but we need to know that on our individual campuses, when we are engaging in these conversations, we have the work rules flexibility to attend these meetings. Ray mentioned we need long hours to get some of this work done. I'm willing to do that. I know that the majority of the folks behind me are willing to do that as well. But we can't have things that require prior authorization to spend an extra hour at a meeting that is of massive importance on this situation be handcuffed to us to even participate. If we don't have the time and flexibility without prior approval from our own individual work units to stay in on the conversation, shared governance's hands from the university staff position are effectively tied, and our voice is limited. If you can grant us the ability to supersede our work rules and hours when necessary only for this exceptional cause, that needs to be communicated to our work units, to our divisions and supervisors from where we all maintain our workforce. I have a production-style job. There are 3 other coworkers that I do my employment with myself. When I'm here representing this mission, 25% of our unit is not there. And then lastly with that, when our representatives are engaged in these conversations, it is largely a project, an exemplary project of where we're moving forward. But our individual units and departments should not necessarily have to compensate my time and my colleagues' time for the number of hours that we're going to put forth on the committees that are in front of us. Similarly to when we have grant monies to distribute and different funding strings to consider for work and research done, we have to log hours, we have to report time for different causes. With tight budgets around the entire system already in work units, I asked you to consider that some of that funding be dispersed to compensate for university staff and other staff representatives' time spent on this project and proposal. To make this work, we all need to be engaged and have the freedom, communication, and resources to do it without creating further anxiety and stresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Nick Weber, you're up next.
Thank you. Thank you to President Cross and the Board of Regents for providing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the students regarding the proposed restructuring of the University of Wisconsin system. Today, the University of Wisconsin system is faced with its fair share of challenges. The restructuring proposal addressed enrollment problems, funding issues, and cost savings all at the same time. Such bold actions on behalf of the University of Wisconsin system typically prompts a response you were expecting from a political science student from a liberal arts college, pleading you to consider the welfare of our students, highlighting the strengths of our two-year institutions, and reminding you the importance of shared governance in higher education. Instead, today, I come to you as a fellow Wisconsinite. Though Wisconsinites come in many different shapes, sizes, lifestyles, morals, and convictions, we pride ourselves on our history, and we have always found a way to make history, even when it wasn't the easiest thing to do. As we as an institution and as a state face the challenges of tomorrow, the question is not what is the easiest way to address these obstacles, but rather what is the best way. Today I am here to ask for something small but meaningful to the next generation of students who will someday sit in your seats. Though I understand some of you may have reservations answering to a request from a millennial, today I am simply asking you to remember. Remember that the UW system is different from the rest of the country. Remember that years ago, this state and this institution was founded on an unbelievable promise to the future. And remember that we too have hopes and dreams for the future of our state. Today I'm asking you to take the next step with us, the students. It would be easy to deny us voting capacity on the steering committee of the UW system tasked with restructuring, and it would be easy for us to walk away and say we did all we could. But everyone in this room knows that the easiest road is most likely not the road to success. I'm asking you, President Cross, and the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin system to support true student representation by allowing a voting member of the student body to your steering committee. And I am reminding the chancellors in the room of the importance of student participation at all regional levels. This is a time to shake hands and move forward together. We are made of our past, but we make our future. And we, the students, want to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Shared governance groups, I'll go ahead and excuse you. But before I do that, board members, let's give a round of applause for a thank you and a commitment. Thank you very much for your hard work and your contributions to the UW. Next, we'll hear from several members of county government and chambers of commerce. Please welcome Dave Ekman, President and CEO of the Wausau Regional Chamber of Commerce, Paul Farrell, the County Executive for Waukesha County, and Brad Carger, Chief Administrative Officer for Marathon County. We appreciate your time and that you're willing to come join us this afternoon. Mr. Ekman, would you like to go first?
Yes, sir.
Take your time.
Thank you. President Cross, Regents, thank you for allowing us to be here today with you to talk about this very important topic. My name is Dave Ekman. I'm the President and CEO of the Wausau Region Chamber of Commerce. We're a business organization in Wausau with 880 members. Small business to large business and industry, you name it, we have it as a member. We also represent our education community, nonprofits. We're the organization in Wausau, if you will, that really has a unique position to tie together its business and industry, its K-12 education, its post-secondary education, its municipal governments, its county government, and nonprofits. We really have a good grasp on what is happening in our community. And what I wanted to share with you today, really coming from a unique perspective, being in economic development for the last 12 years, I worked in the comprehensive university system at UW-Stevens Point in an economic development role. Many of you know me in that capacity. And I've worked in workforce development, and I've worked now in economic development for over 12 years. And I can tell you just in my recent experience as a dissertator, in finishing my doctoral studies, I examined the role of the comprehensive university, UW Comprehensive University in economic development. And I'm here to really tie all that together for you today. Because as we look at the university system and what's in front of us, in the global economy, the knowledge economy we live in today, a community of Wausau, which is about 130,000 in Marathon County, 90,000 in the metro. The city of Wausau is 40,000. We have a distinct opportunity with UW Marathon County. And I can tell you through my research in competitiveness and what Michael Porter talks about in competitive global economy, a community our size, a region our size, cannot be without a UW institution. UW Marathon County in that institutional form is important. UW-Stevens Point in its comprehensive nature is extremely important. The prowess that a UW comprehensive university brings to a region, and you can look at that map right there, how important it is to central Wisconsin, and the ties that it can make to UW Marathon County and UW Wood County, Marshfield. Along with that, this is a transformational event. If you think about it, 1865 to 1890, the two Morrill Acts took place, establishing the land grants. 1933, UW Marathon County was established as a UW center from a teaching college. 1971, the system developed. Now, we're in the global economy. That was 1971, really the last transformational act of this institution. We are now facing the global economy competitive. Our community, and communities like Marshfield, must have a UW presence. Without it, we will lose in this global economic game. And so I'm here today to tell you that from our perspective in Wausau, in the business community, in talking with business leaders and community leaders, we support this action. The option, or the options that President Cross laid out, closure cannot be an option. There are so many opportunities. I can tell you this from my experience in economic development and working in higher education. There are pathways to create new opportunities that will allow UW Stevens Point, UW Marshfield, and UW Marathon County to develop something very special that aligns the core mission of teaching, research, and service and academic programming to the needs of the regional economy, the driving sectors of manufacturing, of business, finance, insurance, and healthcare and commercial services. So with that, I'm here to ask for your support in the restructuring of this system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ekman. Mr. Paul Farrell, could you go next?
Thank you, Mr. President. President Cross, Regents. I apologize if I sound nervous. It's very few times that you have to sit and testify in front of your mom. So if I stare at you guys, it's because I don't want to make eye contact. I'm here today as the county executive of Waukesha County, third largest county in the state. It has the largest two-year college in the state. We have a population of about 400,000 people. We have an operating budget of just over $300 million. And so I'm bringing it from two different perspectives. One, I look at what does this mean to the county when you look at this merger and you look at the opportunities. As you know, the two-year colleges are on the rolls of the county when it comes to the maintenance of the facilities. To us, that equates to roughly $1 million a year. About $250,000 to $300,000 is actual operating budget, so that is tax levy that is going to the college. So when we look at opportunities that are approached to us or put in front of us, we have to weigh out how does that work for the constituency in Waukesha. The university is a great opportunity that we have in Waukesha. It's a great piece of the puzzle that we have. But also I keep looking at it, and President Cross and I have had many conversations on this. Is it being utilized effectively? And I think that's part of what you're looking at here today in looking at how you're realigning potentially the two-year colleges. This is not new to the university system. I believe there was a former federal legislator that had talked about UWM taking over Waukesha many years ago. Right, Mom? Could have happened. But it's something that's been in the conversation. It's been around. It's been part of what we've looked at as we look to continue to grow. I'm at the point right now, though, as I look at our 21st century and we look at the global economy, we look at a reduction in our population, especially in the 18 to 24 age. We look at an aging population that is outside of the purview, basically, of education. They're already there and done. Where are our kids getting their education from? How are they engaging our community and our society? And I think that's one of the things that you need to challenge yourselves as you're looking forward. This is a good first step, but the second step that has to be very close behind is how do we engage them on these? How do we engage the startups? And Chancellor Money and I had an opportunity to be down at NML when they had their first tech hub. And the meeting that we had there and the people in the room weren't looking at 4-year programs. They were looking at 6-week, 8-week kickouts, getting people going, getting people engaged. And I think you're looking at an opportunity now to change the dynamics of how education is brought forth in Wisconsin. And that's one of the things to really keep in mind. We have a great system. I did not go through the whole system. I went to UW-Waukesha. I also went to WCTC, and I went to Carroll University, all within Waukesha County. So I have a perspective looking at the different ways in how they engaged. We have to keep that in mind in how all of them engage. And as I look at the room over here and see a number of the chancellors, things have changed in the last 8 months. Conversations are going much quicker between private schools, the university system, our tech colleges. And the big name in the room is called Foxconn. It is a paradigm shift and a catalyst that is going to change this economy like you wouldn't believe. We're seeing it in Waukesha County. We're seeing it throughout the entire region of southeast Wisconsin. They're looking to hire fast. They're looking to accelerate what we do. We have to be able to present a group of individuals that are ready for that. And I think part of what your charge is and what you have to look at is how do we present that for the next 10, 15, and 20 years. I think this merger is a good first step. I think providing an opportunity to utilize the campuses as an extension of the four-year system is going to be a great opportunity for those individuals in that region. But it's one, can you look at, as we talk about shared governance, can we look at shared campuses? Can we use telecommunications? Can we use technology? Can we use video campuses so that an individual who is at UW-Waukesha can not only go to UWM, but can get their degree from UW-Whitewater? I think that is the charge that you have in front of you. This is a great first step. But when we look at a bang for our buck in what we're doing in Waukesha County, we want to make sure that we can engage everyone and give them the tools they need 24/7. And I think that's the biggest shift that we're going to see in education is this is not 9 to 5. This is not January through May. This is 12 months out of the year, 24/7, after I get off a third shift, after I get off a second shift, and learn that I have continuing learning. I have to continue to grow and move as I want to advance. This is a great first step. I applaud President Cross. I apologize for moving this forward. I hope that you will consider this strongly as an opportunity to really change the dynamics of what the UW system is and really capture the Wisconsin idea of always looking at the next progressive step forward in education. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Brad Karcher, you're up next.
Yes, and I'll try to avoid covering a lot of the ground that's already been covered, especially by Dave Ekman, who's also from Wausau. I'm the Marathon County Administrator. I've been working for Marathon County for 29 years. And let me just tell you a little bit about Marathon County. Most people see it as Wausau, and Wausau is a relatively prosperous area. But there's a lot more to Marathon County than just Wausau. There are towns like Ponatuskee and Athens and Bevent, places you probably never go. But I can tell you that there are a lot of people there, and they're mostly low income. Without UWMC, a lot of them will no longer have access to a high-quality liberal arts education from the University of Wisconsin. We also have in Wausau a large Hmong population. They don't have any college tradition. One thing they share in common with our rural neighbors is they're adverse to a lot of debt. They would find that as a real barrier. Their opportunities would be probably more self-limited than necessary, but without UWMC, a lot of them will not advance to a high-quality liberal arts education. You can do the job I have a number of ways, and a number of people who are in this field spend most of their time talking to the CEOs of major businesses and stuff like that, but the center of my world is people that have changes in life. You know, not just affordability, but life doesn't go the way that they had intended when they graduate from high school. I bump into them in child welfare, I bump into them in mental health, I bump into them in child support, I bump into them in all kinds of different situations where they were on a track, they expected that track would go for a lifetime, and it didn't happen. And now they need to reorganize their life. And UWMC provides that vehicle. They are place-bound. You can say, I know some people will say, and some could go to UW Stevens Point if that were necessary. They could go to someplace else. but a lot could not. They are a single parent with 2 children, and they're working full-time. UWMC provides them a local location where they can come and learn at the highest quality level and offers them hope that they can continue in the job that they have, advance in that company, and move forward with their life in a much more prosperous, healthy, and happy way than they ever could before. Our county board has talked about this restructuring program. We noticed that we have the largest or second largest reduction. We're down 51% since 2010. We know that that means in 3 or 4 years, if we do nothing, there is no UW Marathon County as we know it. There may be some kind of merger with technical college. Many of us are concerned that that would dilute the quality of the liberal arts education. We already have a magnificent technical college. We're very proud of the technical college we have here. But technical college is not for everybody. And if you want to go into engineering, you want to go into medicine, stuff like that, you need a UW law, you need a UW education. We stand in, the county board has not taken up this subject because they just haven't had time, but I have had conversations with all of the board leaders, and we are proud to be the community partner of UW in sponsoring UWMC, and we are not at all looking for an opportunity to pull our money out. I don't know how much money we put in, but I think it's less than $1 million a year. We have put in millions over the years, and we have supported the university as much as any county has. What we want is a planning process that we can participate in, and we all know that there have to be some overarching guidelines so that we don't have a competition amongst the various systems, but we want it to be as decentralized as possible. When I heard President Cross talk, the one thing I would change from what he said was it talked about academics and faculty and business leaders and others. I would like to reorder that and put my group of others at the center of the planning process. You know, this is a different university. It's a different kind of organization, has a different mission than, say, UW-Madison does. And the others, the place-bound, the low-income, the people with no tradition, if they could be at the center of that planning process, they're not going to understand the technical parts, okay? I don't know. Maybe what we should do is figure out what's most important and let the technical parts be taken care of by somebody else. But we support the program. Having a closure in Wausau would be detrimental to our community business climate, as Mr. Ekman has already said. It would be devastating to the rural and urban poor of Marathon County. We hope that we can be a full partner in this. We can move forward with something. When I've talked to people, too, the other thing that everyone wants to talk to me about is the name. Okay? And we floated the name of University of Central Wisconsin, you know, the ruralplex. Here's what I want to tell you. I don't care what the name is. UW-Stevens Point is fine with me, but it's not going to be fine with some people. I got news for you. We're going to have to put a group together, talk about the name, while the rest of us talk about what's most important. What are the needs of real people who need this? Not just the people who choose it, but the people who will have no other choice. And with that, I'll close my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give our Chamber and County Executives a round of applause. Thank you very much for your time and your words this afternoon. Next, we'll turn to our chancellors. I've had a number of chancellors indicate to me that they'd like to speak, so we'll do this in a couple of waves. If we could first have Chancellor Sandeen, Chancellor Schmidt, Chancellor Blank, Chancellor Shields, and Chancellor Miller come join us at the table. Chancellor Sandeen, you're up.
Thank you, Regent President Bailing, President Cross, and our other regents here. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you today about this proposal, and I'm going to show you some pictures as I go through these comments. First one is about doors open, and I think that's very important. This is really a new vision to restructure the UW colleges and UW Extension. As I'm sure you have seen in my various media comments over the past few weeks, I have stated my concern, my ongoing concern, practically since I stepped foot in your state, about the sustainability and viability of these wonderful institutions, the UW colleges. I'm glad we are taking steps to ensure their sustainability. There are probably many, many ways that we could structure ourselves for sustainability, but President Cross has decided on this approach, and I support it. As you know, over the past several years, I really need to give credit to my team for their diligence in working so hard to do all that they could do to restructure and to figure out ways to reduce costs and improve service and maintain the sustainability. But we understand that given the demographic factors that we really can't do much more, and this is a great solution. So I'm gratified that my comments that I put together about things that I think are important to me and important to our institution for you to consider really reinforce a lot of what others have said. So let me go forward with some of these thoughts for you. And forward, can we change the slide, please? Thank you. First, what you're looking at here is the profile of the current students at the UW colleges. Now, the students in the UW colleges are distinctively different than the students who attend other institutions within the UW system. As you have heard some of their stories, 58% of them are the first in their families to go to college. 35% are classified low income by Pell, but more are low income because, as we heard from Administrator Carger, that many of our students do not even apply for financial aid for fear of it. So we have a much higher low income rate. Non-traditional age students, that's older students, students of color, part-time students, students with dependents, either children or older adults they're taking care of. Now I call your attention to the lower left corner. I think this statistic is stunning. 81% of the students in the UW colleges are working. 16% are working full-time. So what this means, these are Wisconsinites with a dream of a University of Wisconsin degree. And it's difficult for them. This profile shows people who are fragile, who are skittish, who are one little problem away from dropping out or stopping out. 40% of our students require some level of developmental education in order to be successful at college level work. 30% require developmental education in both mathematics and English in order to be successful for college level work. They require a high level of learner support. That's been eroded over the past year, so I hope that this new proposal will be able to add more resources to support these students. Our faculty and staff are here at the colleges because they care about these students. Many of them, including myself, are first-generation college graduates themselves. So regardless of the structure that we land on, I hope the mission and the goal of serving the students will remain important and will retain. This slide shows you in a snapshot our transfer success. So of our students who transfer, they are very successful. This is the 8-year BA graduation rate throughout the system, and the red bars, red-ish bars, are UW College. The red bar in the middle is the graduation rate of all UW College who transfer in and complete a bachelor's degree. They're right about in the middle. The lower bar are those who came to us requiring developmental education. When they transfer, they're still very successful in terms of their graduation rate. And then those who come without needing developmental education, they're right up at the top in terms of their BA completion rate once they transfer. So this transfer mission, the open transfer mission, transfer success, will be very important for us to retain as we move forward in our new structure. We already heard from our leaders from county and municipal government that the UW colleges, campuses were made possible by significant investments by local communities, counties and cities. What you're looking at here is our brand new Rail STEM Center at UW Marshfield, Wood County. The total cost of this facility, $6.7 million. That was a combination of county, city, state, and private donor money to make this possible. A total of $440 million in insured value in terms of land and facilities make up the UW College's campuses. I point this out to you because this represents a significant investment from these communities who care about access and have cared about it for years. And the idea of keeping the doors open and even expanding what we do is music to my ears, and I'm sure to theirs as well. So regardless of our structure going forward, respecting these investments, these deep commitments and partnerships will be very important. Of course, this is a big part of the reason that we're sitting here today. Now, this chart tracks the high school age population in our state from 2001 out to 2032. I think this comes from Department of Public Instruction. I think that's where we got it. And so we would have known 6 or 7 years ago about what we're dealing with today. And I put this up there because we're only halfway through that curve. This is not a situation that is going to end anytime soon. And it's something that I think you need to continue to address as we go forward. At two-year institutions, we know that population demographics affect the enrollments greatly, also economics, and we're in a very healthy economy with an historically low unemployment rate at 3%, the lowest in 17 years. Well, what that means when you have students who are working, they work more hours, take fewer classes, they stop out for a while to work, and then they come back, and that also will affect enrollments. So regardless of the structure that we land on and where we go with this new structure, I think we still need to address that those basic macroeconomic population demographic trends are not going to change. UW Extension is thriving in its current structure, and we look forward to working with the UW system and with UW Madison leadership to make sure that this success continues. It makes sense that cooperative extension would return to its original home, UW Madison. We already share over 100 faculty that are joint faculty. And I know we've had conversations, Chancellor Blank and I'm convinced that she will make sure that that division continues to thrive, in part because of the positive reputational effects on UW-Madison throughout the state by being part of cooperative extension. The other divisions of UW Extension, broadcasting, continuing education, and business and entrepreneurship, are really known for their creativity and innovation, and we saw examples of that, of course, today in Malcolm's wonderful presentation on the 100th anniversary of public broadcasting in our state. They're known for creativity, innovation, relevance, and flexibility in serving the ever-changing needs of our state. So regardless of the structure or where they are housed, I hope that that mission of local programming, local relevance, creativity, and innovation are able to be retained. Again, I support this plan, especially to the extent that, as my first picture showed, it keeps the doors open and we maintain the important mission of these institutions. As is well known, both Ray and President Regent Bailing mentioned all the restructurings that we did within the UW colleges. So we know that this is a long process, that it takes an organized process in order to get it done. It will take a long time. You have now and will continue to have my support as we move forward on this. And as we go through this restructuring, our focus will be on structures and inputs. And what I fear is with that focus on structures and inputs, we'll forget about the important outcomes and important goals that we have for this. How will we know that we have preserved the parts of the mission we care so much, serving various citizens of the state, like the people on the screen? How do we know we will have expanded access? What are our benchmarks? How do we measure? And how do we hold ourselves accountable? How do we know we've dealt with the enrollment declines? What are our benchmarks? How do we measure, and how do we hold ourselves accountable? How do we know we're providing a broader array of courses on our two-year campuses? What are our benchmarks? How do we measure? How do we hold ourselves accountable? How do we know we've achieved open transfer, better transfer, transfer success? What are our benchmarks? How do we measure? How do we hold ourselves accountable? And how do we know we are continuing our tradition of innovation and creativity? We are doing this restructure for a reason, and regardless of how we are structured, let's not lose sight of that purpose. This is still all about the Wisconsin idea and serving people, real people, like those on the screen, the students, the clients, communities, viewers, and listeners, all the citizens of the state. As we go through this rigorous process, I ask us also to look at the future. What are the outcomes we're trying to achieve, and how will you, as our regents, hold us accountable to those outcomes? Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Sandin. Chancellor Schmidt, could you go next?
Thank you, Regent President Bailing. I appreciate the opportunity to offer a few comments about this proposed restructuring plan. I'd like to first start by congratulating and thanking President Cross for his leadership in this area. Too often, higher education is accused of not moving quickly enough to understand changes in our populations and responding to it. I think the demographics speak for themselves, and I think this is a very wise course of action in order to protect the mission of the two-year colleges. I think this is particularly important, and I think will become the focus of all of our work moving forward. As Chancellor Sandin had mentioned, we must focus on the students, the people of the state of Wisconsin, and the mission of these institutions. By focusing on the students, our clients, we do better work than by focusing on our structures. This is not about ego. This is about serving real people, as has been mentioned. I understand concerns that have been expressed that this came through quickly. I've assured people both in Barron County and on my own campus, this is a very important policy decision that this board will be considering in a few moments. But the important portions of that are the 1,000 decisions that have yet to be made. As we consider the bringing together of UW-Eau Claire and Barron County, we will be assembling faculty, staff, students, community stakeholders, county leaders, business leaders to figure out how we address what that merger looks like. I frankly believe that each of these will take on its own characteristic. I said at Barron County we should not take a cookie cutter approach to solving these issues. It is our job to be responsive and to truly serve the unique needs of these regions. And I think we have a great opportunity. I will point out that I've been less concerned about the implications of going through this process than many. In my own experience in Minnesota, I started my career working at a technical college. I strongly support the focused mission of our technical colleges. I later worked at a community college, not unlike UW-Barron County. Interestingly enough, was right next door to a technical college. I went through a merger process when I was working at the technical colleges, merged with 2 other colleges, followed by what I term a shotgun divorce by the new governing board after a larger merger in the state, and then a remerger with additional colleges. This all happened, all of these actions took place in a 4-year period of time. And I was privileged, I say tongue-in-cheek, to chair the merger steering committee of the last merger, which is stuck, by the way, so I must have worked out all right. But one of my big takeaways from that experience is, even though time is short, you can make most of the decisions. If we're focused on our students and make sure that we do not negatively impact the students during this transition, things are going to work out okay. The other big takeaway is to be focused on these missions. It is not my intention to create a small UW-Eau Claire in Barron County. I believe it's very important to protect the unique mission of the 2-year college. That means by having accessible tuition, opportunities that are open access for enrollment purposes to give students that chance that they need. It also includes transfer. Students at UW-Barron County, many of them transfer to UW-Eau Claire currently. We're the largest recipient of them. But many choose to go to Stout, and they will continue to have that great option. I will be welcoming admissions crew from all of my colleague institutions to come to UW-Barron County to recruit students from there. Because if we are focused on what's right for students, most of the rest of this takes care of itself. We must be focused on our mission, be focused on our students, be focused on our communities. And I think with that opportunity, we have, is what we call in UW Eau Claire, the power of and. We will continue to keep these institutions open, but we will, and, there I used the wrong language, didn't I? Wrong conjunction. And we have the opportunity to bring additional coursework to UW Barron County with some baccalaureate programming. I will tell you, this is not a one-way consolidation. I've told just the University Senate Executive Committee this week that I believe UW Eau Claire will learn a lot from the experiences at Barron County. UW Barron County has a wonderful relationship with the Somali population in Barron County. We want to learn more about that. They have an agreement with Lakota Tribal College. We want to learn more about that. There's an international academy located in Ladysmith. We want to learn more about that. UW Barron County does a lot in area high schools, something that UW Eau Claire has not done. We want to learn more about that. So I believe we will be bringing many strengths to the table of both institutions, and we will truly bring out the best in each other while preserving our mission. I look forward to getting this conversation started when I bring a group of shared governance leaders to Barron County on Wednesday, and Chancellor Sandeen has the opportunity to address the Barron County faculty and staff and students as well. Thank you for your consideration. Again, I think this is a wise move.
Thank you, Chancellor Schmidt. Chancellor Blank.
Thank you, Regent President Bailing. I am delighted with the opportunity to think about how we reintegrate cooperative extension and conferences into UW-Madison, and I say reintegrate because cooperative extension in Wisconsin was created at the University of Wisconsin in Madison well over 100 years ago and lived in our home for almost 70 years until the system was formed. We were the original home of the Wisconsin idea, and cooperative extension is one of the best examples of that in terms of the integration of the research and educational experiences within the state out into the state in every county. That said, I'm acutely aware, and I just want to be clear, that cooperative extension serves and works with all of the different organizations within the system, all of the different campuses, and serves counties and groups of people that are sometimes far outside the UW-Madison mission. And I am very committed to maintaining that type of service. Also, as others have said, an announcement is not a plan, and to get from the announcement to the plan is going to require a lot of hard work, and we're very pledged to do that work in consultation with the faculty and the staff of Extension and Conference Centers, as well as with the external stakeholders who are very involved with Extension, such as the county execs and a whole variety of the people out there in the counties. If we do this right, I believe that both cooperative extension can become stronger by being on a campus and leveraging the resources at UW-Madison to do its mission better, and that UW-Madison can become stronger by working with cooperative extension and, again, reintegrating its work into our fundamental commitment to the Wisconsin idea. So I appreciate the opportunity to consider this.
Thank you, Chancellor. Chancellor Shields.
Good afternoon, Regents, Regent President Bailing, and the rest of the audience. I grew up in rural Iowa. My high school had 250 kids aged grades 9 to 12. The two institutions we're taking on are in communities very similar to the ones that I grew up in. The larger picture is higher education is a need to be more dynamic moving forward. We're being pushed in a lot of different directions. And all of us as leaders on our campus are dealing with how do we get to a new normal, which is much more responsive to a lot of external stakeholders. So I thank President Cross for getting us out ahead of the curve to deal with an issue that is staring us in the face and not waiting until it's foisted on us by external stakeholders. I thank Chancellor Sandeen for reminding us about the students and what they look like. Interestingly, we're an access institution, and so my guess that more than half of our students work. I know that 30 to 40% of our students are Pell eligible, and the rest of our students come from pretty modest means. So for us, looking at least from the University of Wisconsin-Platteville perspective, the institutions that we're looking at are not necessarily dealing with a substantially different clientele student population than we're already dealing with. So how do we proceed? Number one, we need to build trust in those communities, so I'll be visiting those campuses and communities next week if you approve this proposal moving forward. Primarily to listen. While I do think, and I think on our campus at Platteville, we're very excited about this opportunity, I think the first step is to listen to the students, the staff and faculty on these campuses, to listen to the external stakeholders about their interests, concerns, before we move down any path. Now, there's a lot of technical stuff, IT systems and student records and all that stuff is going to have to be done, but at a fundamental level, I believe my role is to get in tune with the needs of those schools and those communities, understanding their hopes and dreams, and figure out a way for us to align with them and support that. There's no question in my mind the primary concerns that I have are two. Number one, great outcomes for students and helping those institutions thrive. The path forward to doing that is to first listen to what they have to offer. I am excited about this because most of the last 2 years I've been visiting. I think there's about 20 communities in southwest Wisconsin where I've met with school leaders, elected officials, business officials, et cetera. And I would say to you that some of the success we've had with some investments in our campuses are a direct result of getting in tune with those communities. So we didn't just ask them to advocate for us. We went to them and asked them, what can we do to help your communities thrive and succeed? And that's the Wisconsin idea, I think. So I'm excited about the prospect. I'm really enthused about expanding the number of people that we know in these communities. We know some people. We have a fair number of people who spent time working at UW Richland that work on our campus now. One of them is leading our student success program. We know business and industry in the region, Rockwell Automation in Richland. Member of our foundation board is an important leader in the Baraboo area and a former senior executive at an engineering firm up there. So I think we have the basis for building great relationships and helping all three of the institutions thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Chancellor Miller.
Thank you, Regent President, for the opportunity to visit briefly with you about this resolution before you regarding UW colleges. If this resolution is approved, UW Green Bay will join three remarkable communities in northeast Wisconsin. These are communities that have three excellent colleges that we're very familiar with and have lots of interaction with. They are institutions that we have admired for a long time. Two of them once belonged to University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. And this is a region that has an interesting cohesion in economic development up and down the area, and we're very excited about it. The community of Green Bay and UWGB are very excited about this opportunity, and I'm here to support it. I will tell you we're also very optimistic. We're confident this will be a difficult process. It will take a lot of work. We're committed to doing that work. We believe we can integrate and join these universities efficiently in full collaboration with Chancellor Sandeen and the colleges, the communities that will join with us in this great endeavor in the system, of course, as well. These actions today really do align. This is a bold action that aligns with some major themes of the 2020 Forward Strategic Plan, as President Cross has noted. One of these is very important to us in the northeast part of the state, and that is to be a locus of innovation and transformative change in a great period of dynamic change in higher education and the economy. For us, this means a deep commitment to both access for students to higher education and student success in higher education and beyond in their careers. And it means making higher education affordable and continuing to work in every way we can to reduce costs in that way. And we believe, at least in Green Bay, that this new structure gives us some new opportunities in that regard that we haven't yet explored. This also means supporting economic development, generating talent not only for now but for the future, and working to enhance the condition of all people through partnerships in education and the arts and all endeavors that support the Commonwealth good. And we know from our experience with the colleges that these are values that they share as well. We do not expect this reorganization to add up to a new collection of multi-campus universities. We actually have much bigger expectations for these new universities in Wisconsin. We think that the synergies that we will create here with our new partners will vastly increase the capacity of this system to serve our region and our state, and particularly the students in every part of our state. The new university will take a broader view. It can take on bigger challenges, can advance more creative and far-reaching solutions, and serve more people. And it will also create new answers, new avenues to collaboration. We think this is one area that we look forward to exploring. So if you support this resolution, you're really not just reorganizing the system, you're raising your expectations of it in the state in a very bold way. Finally, let me say that the real power of this reorganization goes well beyond finding efficiencies. The real power here is in reshaping the capacity of this system to serve students and support communities by encouraging them working together and giving them a platform to imagine what the future will be like in this dynamic time. And to imagine that together with shared governance, with students, with county government, with city government, and with all of the businesses and other institutions in these regions. This can only happen if we work the process that the President has laid out, if we're smart about allocating flexibilities and resources, and if we work together with one another. UW Green Bay, and I believe all of us, are very excited to begin this imagining the future of the state of Wisconsin through these new partners. And we will be visiting ours in Marinette, Manitowoc, and Sheboygan next week with the Chancellor, and we will hope to have a great interaction with them and move forward. Thank you very much, President.
Thank you, Chancellors. I'll go ahead and excuse this group of Chancellors and have our next group come up. Chancellors Patterson, Money, Copper, and Levitt. Chancellor Patterson, could you leave us off?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
The proposal that's before you today is historic. It represents the largest restructuring of higher education in our state since the UW system was formed in 1971. I think there are significant opportunities here. An opportunity to increase access, an opportunity to expand academic offerings, and opportunities to innovate. The extent to which we will be able to achieve these goals will depend directly on the degree of flexibility that this board grants to the receiving universities, and the extent to which state funds currently supporting the UW colleges at the local, regional, and state or central level are reallocated to continue to support the students, faculty, staff, and the two-year campuses. I do not believe this restructuring will save money, nor should that be our goal in this endeavor. The reallocation of funds that currently support the UW colleges will be critical to our success. If we are given the latitude to innovate, I am certain that 5 years from now, this board will be very proud of the results. There will be some who want to see as little change as possible. That's just human nature. But if all we change is the sign on the street, then we will have failed. I will conclude with my personal observations about the speed with which this proposal has come forward. I speak now as an academic, having completed 42 years in the academy at 4 universities across 3 states. Our strength as academics is our ability to study, to investigate, to research, and to analyze issues, problems, and possible solutions. In another time, I might have been the one suggesting that we push the pause button until there's time to study this proposal. But today, I see a sense of urgency. Today, I see a sense of urgency that perhaps others do not see. My university is facing significant challenges, as are the 2-year campuses in Wausau and Marshfield. Issues that seem to be concentrated in central Wisconsin. While this proposal will not immediately solve our problems, we must be willing to take bold steps. We must be willing to take risk. And we must be willing to fail along the way. But with the support of this board, I am certain we will succeed. I strongly support the proposal you're considering today. And I'm also very proud to be part of the University of Wisconsin system, especially during these times. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chancellor Patterson. Chancellor Mone, can you go next?
Thank you, Regent President Baling. Members of the Regents, I'm pleased to be able to talk today about the reasons why I support this resolution and think that it's absolutely necessary for us to proceed. I'm going to start with students. I had the pleasure to be the commencement speaker at UW-Waukesha last May, and before that, the commencement speaker at UW-Fox Valley in the previous year. When I talked about the students, I did some study. I had the opportunity to get to know the climate, the culture, and having been part of UW system for almost 30 years, I know these campuses reasonably well. And I can tell you that the students there don't differ a lot from those at UW-Milwaukee in terms of our diverse backgrounds, in terms of the first generation, in terms of some of the most diverse, in terms of income levels, in terms of racial makeup, in terms of veteran background, LGBT status, every dimension you can imagine. But the core that I talked about a lot was that of grit. And what we've got are students who want to succeed. And that's what I can tell you we're committed to, and that's what this transition is really a lot about. So I support it because of what it means for student success. I think about what happens at Parkside. I think about, Debbie, what we work on together. Chancellor Ford is as committed as I am to working in southeastern Wisconsin, which raises the second element that I want to talk about, which is around workforce needs. County Executive Farrow talked about Foxconn, but what has been is a catalyst for us to address much more fundamentally what we should have been addressing, and what I give President Cross a lot of credit for in terms of bringing the alignment when we talk about 2020 forward, listening throughout the state, and the one thing that's critical is that issue of alignment. So Chancellor Ford and I are co-chairing a lot of regional work today through the M7 that'll lead to a much greater sense of alignment, not just for Foxconn, but especially for Foxconn. So this concept of regional efforts is absolutely critical, and we hear the same thing echoing throughout the state. The third piece is that around what this means in terms of regional academic footprint. And I think the opportunity to not just look at the current opportunities from an efficiency and effectiveness perspective today, but really think about the opportunities as higher education is changing so dramatically. Employer after employer across the state is telling us about the need to change. You heard that today from some of the county executives and the workforce development folks. I can't stress that enough in terms of our burgeoning partnerships as we look at the opportunities and how we have to change our models. This is something that we, I believe, recognize if this resolution is supported. So thank you for the opportunity. I do want to also echo some of the comments that you've heard today about this is going to have to be staged carefully. It's going to have to be done participatively with a lot of flexibility. It will take a lot of effort. We're committed to that and absolutely support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Chancellor Copper.
Yes, I too would like to share that and appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts with you. We are very positive about the joining with UW-Rock County for many reasons, and certainly they begin with seeing this as an exciting opportunity to really further strengthen the partnerships that we already have, not only in Rock County, but also in our region and certainly around the state. So we view that as very positive and another opportunity to further strengthen the partnerships that we have with our businesses and with our community leaders. The other very positive part of this is joining together with UW-Rock County really dovetails very nicely with our mission, and like as you've heard from a few of my chancellor colleagues, when I look at the demographics, again, our student demographic profile is very, very similar. And so we pride ourselves in being a university that is accessible, that's affordable, and we take great pride in our special mission to serve non-traditional students, including our veterans, students who are working, students who are first generation, underrepresented minority students. Again, this gives us the opportunity to even enhance that mission by joining together with UW-Rock County. Clearly, we are a university who is laser focused on student success and laser focused on transforming lives. And by joining together with UW-Rock County, we see that, that mission, that goal as truly being enhanced. Is there anxiety on campus related to this? Yes, I will be honest with you. Are there significant questions? Of course, as we look at this. And there are those that do center around the budgetary issues, like the structural deficit, how will that be handled? Like the issue of, has been brought up, how will the regional and central resources be allocated to the campuses related to this coming together? But always, always we know that we all will be focused on our core mission that we all share, and that is simply our students' success and providing them with a world-class education, what we all do. So we are, again, very excited about this, and as we proceed, we too are already engaging in conversations on campus. Those will certainly expand once the proposal is approved. We will continue those conversations on UW-Rock County scheduled for tomorrow if the proposal is approved, and certainly will honor the shared governance tradition that we have, and certainly include all constituents, both on our campuses as well as in our community. I have to share with you a comment that one of our students made as we've been talking about this on campus. And one of our students, as he was commenting on the proposal, said, "You know what, Chancellor? We're going to be fine because we're going to do this right because that's the Warhawk way."
Thank you, Chancellor. Chancellor Levitt.
Thank you, Regent President Baling, for this opportunity. Now that everything's been said, not everybody has said it, so I'll go ahead and finish that. I'm excited about this, and the reason is that I was a part of a consolidation of a 4-year institution with a 2-year institution in the state of Georgia. As you know, the University System of Georgia has been out front on this for several years now, since 2012, moving from about 35 institutions in the system, I think they're down to about 26. So they have done quite a bit of this. It's interesting to note that I received 1 day's notice as a senior administrator of my institution prior to consolidation being announced in the state of Georgia.
So this is not an uncommon thing to have happen simply because of the rather sensitive and political nature of it. One thing I've learned a lot from these consolidations, and certainly my own, and what I have learned is that we must be empathetic with our colleagues on the two-year campuses, in that the way this is being viewed initially is certainly a loss of control, a loss of identity, really a loss to them in many ways, to our great colleagues on these campuses, and that we have to be sensitive to this as we bring these new universities together, and that we have to listen. And so I certainly echo the comments of Chancellor Shields. This is what I need to do in the next weeks and months to come, is to listen, and then to make sure that there is deep and meaningful involvement of all parties concerned in the plans moving forward to create a new consolidated university. That's very, very important. So the upside of it is this, is that certainly I was a part of one of the very first consolidations in the state of Georgia, and today the region of that state is completely transformed because of this consolidation, in terms of the footprint, the prowess, if you will, of the institution, its reach, in terms of economic development, but most importantly, the multiple pathways it creates for students in the region. And now we're going to be, all of us will be institutions that offer everything from from certificates to associates to baccalaureates to masterships, and many of us doctorates. That's sort of the full menu of post-secondary options. And so it's really going to be powerful. It's going to be powerful to the communities in which we extend, in that they will have a 4-year UW associated with communities that heretofore had not. So I'm very much in support of this. I'm very much looking forward to working with Regional Dean Martin Rudd and his great colleagues on the two campuses that we will be joining with, UW Fox Valley and UW Fond du Lac. I would not be a good fundraiser unless I did offer this as well, and that is we do need the flexibility. We need the flexibility, and we're going to need to make sure these are properly resourced to the extent that we can as a system in order for them to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellors. I'll go ahead and excuse this group of Chancellors. Are there any other Chancellors that wish to join us at the table and speak? If not, board members, let's give a round of applause to our Chancellors. As I travel the state, I always marvel at the ability and brilliance of our Chancellors. We're blessed to have you, and thank you all for your comments today. And I would like to thank everyone who spoke here today. We appreciate the open and thoughtful testimony. As we now begin to discuss this proposal, and in order to start the discussion, I'll call on Regent Stile to move adoption of Resolution Number 7. Regent Stile.
Thank you, President Bailing. I come to this with a bit of a background in mergers and acquisitions, working for one of the state's largest manufacturing companies. I've done over 40 acquisitions in the manufacturing space. And I'm not going to indicate that manufacturing is the same as education, but I think some of the principles that are learned in the merger process in the private sector, actually those principles apply here. And so first I'd say is a vote to merge is not the end. It's the start of the hard work that's ahead of us with our diverse stakeholders. Change is difficult, and bold actions required to implement change. Some have said that we need to slow down as they identify risk in the proposal. I see opportunities and say full steam ahead. Maintaining all of our campuses in this changing environment is a great reward. Full steam ahead. In fact, it enhances our two-year institutions. Enhancing the two-year institutions, full steam ahead. It simplifies and streamlines transferability. Transferability, full steam ahead. I think this is financially responsible, and I'd like to continue to push you, President Cross, to find additional cost savings as we go through this merger process. Financial responsibility, full steam ahead. And I think most important, it's the right thing to do for our students. If our students are at our core, we're in the right spot. I think this is the right thing for our students, full steam ahead. With that, I move adoption of Resolution 7 for the restructuring of UW colleges and UW Extension.
Second. Thank you. Motion and second made. Now I'm going to open this up for Regent discussion. In addition discussion, certainly if there's any questions by board members for President Cross and myself. With that being said, who'd like to go first? Regent Milner.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank all the panel members that both informed and confirmed many of the opinions that I've had about what's before us right now. When I came on the board, when most of us came on the board, we were questioned by legislators, by the general public, about what constituted an effective system going forward. There were questions that were asked. So the idea that this is a speedy change really isn't relevant. These four alternatives that President Cross outlined for us were things that have been thought of for many years. So this is something that we have going forward, and I am strongly supportive of the proposal. But President Cross, I do have a question for you with respect to the resolution. If you would glance at the resolution, in the second resolved, you use the verb joined, and in the fourth resolved, you use the word moved to the actions being taken. Would you please clarify the use of those two terms? And then if I could have a follow-up question.
President Cross.
Could you repeat where they were? What were they?
All right, if you will look at the second resolved clause, this is with resolve to the UW Green Bay, UW Washington County, et cetera, being joined. And then
on page 2.
In the fourth resolve, with respect to the Division of Business and Entrepreneurship, the Division of Broadcasting and Media and Innovation, the Division of Continuing Education Outreach, and e-learning, the verb used is moved. President Cross?
Yes, I'll try to do that. In consultation with HLC, there are certain words that mean different things within their operations. So joined is one of the words that they find appropriate for some form of consolidation or restructuring. And that's what's happening with the campuses of UW colleges with respect to the comprehensives and with Milwaukee. Well, if you'll notice in the fourth resolved, the word joined is also used with cooperative extension and conference centers with respect to UW Madison. So the other three divisions are being moved in total as they are under UW system administration. And that could reflect a subsequent, as we go through this planning process, if they're moved there, that might be a holding pattern, that might be something that could subsequently be changed. As we resolve or look through this process through the planning efforts that are going to start tomorrow, should this pass.
Thank you very much. You've answered my question. And the concern that I've heard expressed is that there will be elements of that which need further investigation. And I would like to thank you for the further resolve that allows us to have regular updates as Regents as this progresses, and also that that you're authorized to conduct any additional research necessary.
Thank you, Regent Milner. I would also comment that if the resolution passes today, know that my very next step is to direct President Cross and the staff to make this item a standing item on the next six agendas. So for the next 6 meetings through August, this will be a standing item in which President Cross and his team gives updates. And so I did want to follow up with your comment and know that if it passes today, that's my first directive to President Cross. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Regent Hall.
I would first like to just compliment you, President Cross. The input that we received today, especially from our universities, as well as our business partners, really represents my concern, which is making sure that we have the candor from our communities, because this is a huge move for our state, but it's one that is definitely needed. So it does have my support. I appreciate knowing that we'll have our standing, this will be a standing topic for us so that we continue to monitor. What else will be important is that we organize, continued conversations in our communities with constituents, which I think many of those who spoke today indicated, and that even as Regents, that we are able to take those opportunities to speak with our local communities and host meetings, which would involve our educational leaders. Someone made the point of how important it is to be student-focused, and I think that is the other piece for us to maintain that focus as Regents, that at the end of the day, everything that we do has to be around improving the quality of education for our students and the whole access and affordability, which I do believe will be a part of what happens in this merger.
Thank you, Regent Hall. Regent Ring.
Thank you, Regent President Bailing. I first just want to thank President Cross for bringing this proposal to us. But I won't reiterate what previous discussions, they're great points. But I do have a question and as well as a concern for you, President Cross, about, the implementation going forward, if this is approved. Being a part of student government previously, and the shared governance process, and allowing students to voice their concerns and comments to other shared governance bodies within the UW system. So my question is, if this proposal is implemented, how can these shared governance bodies voice their concerns, I guess, to the steering committee if this is implemented, and really be a part of the conversation?
Regent Ring, you're trying to be too polite. You can confront me with the question, why aren't students on the steering committee? Could you put up on the slide the implementation strategy, as the plan, or could you show that at this point? There you go. The steering committee in the middle of that, Regent Ring, already has a representative from each of those campuses, plus those campuses that are not receiving institutions. And then there are, I believe, 9 more, 5 from the system and 4 from UW colleges and extension. So we're in the neighborhood of 22 members on the steering committee already. So the question was, how do we get shared governance engaged in that process on the steering committee? So what you see on the box at the left, we are encouraging students, university staff, academic staff, and you heard Jeremy, you heard others very eloquently articulate the concerns they have. Well, make sure we're guarding this, make sure the issue that university staff raised about how do we get time to work on this, all really good concerns, really good issues. I think the goal there is for them to attend that meeting, and we will engage them in the conversation, and we will not only that, ask them to bring forward their concerns so we understand those. That's meant to be a very collaborative process. My concern is if we put the student rep on the committee, I need to put university staff, academic staff, and faculty, so that I end up with a steering committee that's crowding 30, and that gets very cumbersome. But you want, how do you get them into the process and engage in that process? And that's what we think will work. If we find out that it doesn't work very well, we'll change it. So that's the intent.
Thank you, President Cross.
If I may just add to that, I really hope that the students, student reps, and the university staff raised some really good questions, and I think Holly Hassel did as well. And Holly wrote a wonderful piece not too long ago about the issues that concern the faculty within college. Make sure you guard these issues well done, very well done, and we want to make sure that we are guarding those issues because at their core, they're issues that affect students the most. So that's really important.
Thank you. Regent Higgins.
Thank you, Regent President Bailing. Like all of us, I've received missives and letters and other contacts from many people who are concerned with the restructuring, including from people who are close friends who I know and respect and who have had extensive experience with the UW system. And many of those contacts included requests to postpone this decision. Nevertheless, I support the restructuring and will support this resolution on the table today. The factors driving it, state demographics, workforce needs, and enrollment challenges are not speculative, but factual. We know we're going to have to deal with them. We know we're dealing with them to an extent right now. And in light of these factors, President Cross has considered 4 options. President Cross, as former chancellor of colleges and extension, is uniquely knowledgeable about the interrelationships and infrastructure of the subject institutions. Therefore, I have a lot of confidence in his approach and his ability to draw the kind of input from his executive team that has caused his decision to be made. This decision, as he points out, is a proposal, not a plan. It establishes a framework for meeting the challenges the UW system now faces. And I think that to a certain extent, by establishing a framework, we facilitate the continuing process by having people focus as opposed to approach the decisions that have to be made in a scattered way. The proposal, in my opinion, leaves ample opportunity for meaningful input from shared governance and community groups that will shape its successful implementation. And for that reason, I support the resolution. But I do have an obligation that I promised that I made when I was on the Stout campus recently to the Student Government Association leaders who were very professional in asking the question. And they said specifically, Tim, why is it that UW Stout, with its history of actually establishing the UW Barron County campus with a geographic, I mean, it's five miles closer from UW Barron County to Stout than it is to Eau Claire, according to my Google Maps. And because the academic orientation of Stout, they allege matches closer with the Barron County orientation than it does with Eau Claire. Why did you make that decision? So having made that promise, I have now passed it to you to give us the answer. Thank you.
Sounds good. I'll have President Cross go first, and then I'll go next. Go ahead, President Cross.
There are 4 principal issues we looked at, and some of these are could have gone either way. It's hard to weight them strongly one way or the other, but in fact, Stout is 5 miles closer. However, the road to get to Eau Claire is a 4-lane road, and it's probably faster. So proximity is one. Second, the transfer rates. And if you look at the transfers over the last several years, roughly 43% of the transfers went to Stout, the students that did transfer, and about 57% went to Eau Claire. Third point is that the type of programming, the programming at the programmatic capability or compatibility, the programming at Barron County, Rice Lake is liberal arts. And when that campus was formed, Stout was not a polytechnic. Today it is a polytechnic, and its primary mission is polytechnic. That doesn't mean it doesn't do liberal arts. It does that very well. But I think that focused mission has served them well and wisely. So the liberal arts agenda mission of Eau Claire seemed to be more compatible in that pairing. The other point I would make is that I think that it's very important, and I know that not only has Chancellor Meyer, but others have said, wait a minute, Ray, we want to be careful here. Those 43% that we get from Stout, or from Barron County, are really important to us. It's very important that nothing be done, in fact, everything be done to encourage other institutions to recruit and receive transfers from any of these two-year campuses. That's a really important factor.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Cross. Regent Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly heard today a lot of comments of support, and I understand that the status quo is not sustainable given declining enrollments. And many of the components within the proposal have merit in my view, but I'm still troubled and cannot support it today. You say, Mr. President, that we need to be bold, but I also believe we have to be deliberative. And I don't know if we've had enough time to really study this proposal. And let me tell you why, particularly for the financial management. I don't know if we're fulfilling our financial fiduciary responsibility. There's very little detail in the proposal. There's nothing in terms of revenues, expenses. We heard there's a structural deficit. I don't know where, I don't know how much. I don't know how we can say we're going to be financially responsible when we don't understand the base. And I'm particularly concerned, uneasy about the material change to UW's system, which hasn't had as much attention this afternoon as some of the other components of the proposal. It is a material change in terms of the number of direct reports to President Cross and the financial funds flow. Right now, as you know, in system administration, there's system administration funds flow, and there's the system-wide account that isn't very well understood by our stakeholders, but a lot of funds flow in and out of that, and it also supports IT. Now we're going to be adding potentially many more funds into this funds flow, and how we're going to keep them separate and distinct is not at all explained. And let me go through just quickly all three of them. One is entrepreneurship is coming over, and business. And there's entrepreneurship centers on every campus. I mean, everyone wants to be in this business and needs to be. But my instincts tell me that maybe at this point we should reallocate some of that money back to the campuses that are on the ground. And so we don't know yet how much will stay with system, if any, and how much will be redirected to our existing campus programs. Second, public television and radio that we spend so much time about today. It's such an operational function. It's like 24/7. It's not the coordinating body that system administration is right now. And probably most importantly to me, look at all these synonyms: continuing education, outreach, e-learning, flex learning, UW Colleges Online. Exactly how is that going to fit in a system administration coordinating body when, again, there should be more attention given to that and possibly some reallocation back to the campuses? Past boards have really gotten in trouble when we haven't monitored the financial side of things: revenues, expenses, deficits, and fund balances. So I'm asking now today for just simply more time. And I can always see and hear the pushback. And I'm only requesting 3 weeks. I hope that you will consider postponing a final decision until December. And I think clearly there'll be the votes to pass it at that time. But if I were to prevail, it would give us more time to read all the documents that are out on the website. I haven't done so. I haven't been able to read the documents that we received in our packet today. We could, in the interim, get a financial baseline so that we can better judge success in the future. I don't think we're going to save money, but I sure hope we can spend existing money more effectively and efficiently. And finally, I think we'll have fulfilled our fiduciary responsibility and give us an opportunity to potentially mark up or change the proposal, probably in modest ways. Again, it's only a 3-week delay, but I think it would be very valuable to us as a board. Thank you.
Thank you. Regent Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I was in the legislature, I used to have a great chance, and I was glad when I got on this board again to have another chance to talk to students, and students of all ages, quite frankly. And my admonition to them all the time was, stay here, get your education here, and lead Wisconsin into the future here. And I excused them only if they were going into military service. This was when I was speaking to big groups. I'd say, if you're going into military service as you graduate from high school, fine, but come back. And we know from all of our veteran service, they're coming back. I guess now, if I were in that same role, and I am very minorly, I would add something. And I would add an admonition to them to have a family, because we haven't had enough families. And that's why we're all sitting here trying to figure out, where did they go? We had all these great institutions and these great programs to offer them, and we're losing them. Not because they don't like us, but because they're not there. They don't exist. So I guess I say that in jest, but we have to remind ourselves, some of this maybe we can create it over the years. A lot of it, it's falling in our laps. And so we have to deal with it. I don't think we can put anything off. I feel this vote today, when I look back on my 4.5 years on the board so far, this vote is the most important one besides the one I cast to help hire President Cross as our president. I feel that was the best, up to this point, the best decision I've made, and I stand as a strong supporter of what he's done, especially on this. But I guess, I know our former state auditor, I would never argue with her on anything financially, Regent Mueller, but I guess we can't wait. We've got to get going. If we get restructured and we have things moved, and we suddenly, because when you move, you always unearth something you never thought you were going to find in your own house or whatever it is, if it's in business or whatever. Let's know that out there, we're going to have to address our financial side of these entities. And if quite frankly, I didn't know it was in there until the budget was passed. I'm glad we're finally going to make some enemies here. I'm glad we're going to have an outside fiscal audit. I would like to have a major national audit firm look at our books as they do other systems in the country, and then have a conversation about, well, what are we doing that's goofy, and what are we doing that shines above everybody else? We haven't had that opportunity. Our wonderful audit bureau, which I have great respect for, from my 16 years over in that wedding cake building, I mean, they, quite frankly, they don't do anything this big. This is the biggest thing they do. And they can't sit down with us as auditors do in companies, and I'm on boards, I know what happens. They can't have a conversation with suggestions or questions about, did you ever think of this? Or we, in general, because they can't divulge other information. We've got to get going to both survive financially, but to survive, because we still, if it's non-traditional or traditional students, we have to continue to attract them. We have to make ourselves the place they want to go to and stay put and learn, and then stay and grow our state. So I am thrilled with taking this vote today. I'm thrilled with this opportunity that this is moving forward, and I give great credit. I'm thrilled with the comments made by everyone. Forget that one, but my son. But I hope he's hiding something back there. I didn't think he was there. We didn't know it. But I'm very pleased to hear, on behalf, I assume, of most of your colleagues, what the chancellors had to say. I didn't know what I was going to hear today when I came. Having read through the materials and all, I thought you were going to be, kind of getting it through your teeth somehow, that, yeah, okay, we'll drag our feet, but we'll be with you for survival. I didn't hear that. I heard great interest and enthusiasm. And I just think this is the greatest thing. I want to thank you, President Cross, for bringing it forward. And I'm happy to, I know there's a million things ahead, but let's deal with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Farrell. Regent Tyler.
I'm glad you're asking people to have kids, but even if we all committed to more productive sex, it takes 19 years to make an 18-year-old, so.
But you've got to plan ahead.
But stay at it. One of the most common questions that I get about government and public entities is the speed or the lack of speed in which they act. And, I just thought it's interesting that most of the letters that I've received or comments say that stop or slow down or put it off, yet the criticism is we don't move fast enough. So I agree that we need to move quickly on this. I like the approach of the regional decisions. That hasn't really come up, and I think that chancellors and the ability to have those discussions in a region and address what's important in that region, I think we're going to get better outcomes for students than if those decisions are made elsewhere. I would ask for a bias toward flexibility. I think that one of the challenges is that, at least I hope, we're going to see differences in approach to this. And as those, decisions are made and different approaches are developed, I would hope that we have a bias toward giving them as much flexibility as we possibly can on those decisions. The one thing that I've got that gives me some heartburn, and actually Regent Mueller touched on this, but I'm kind of taking a different view. I live in a very rural area, and public television is different in a rural area. Oftentimes, it's the only programming for kids. Although we encourage parents to not have screen time in excessive ways, it's better than nothing. And it's really important in very rural areas because it is accessible everywhere in the state at no cost, and that's critical. My heartburn is that I don't see how that fits in system administration. I really don't. I'm not sure where it fits, but it gives me heartburn that it would be there. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Regent Erickson.
Thank you, President Bailey. I just want to thank everybody for all the hard work that they've done, especially President Cross, in investigating this and coming up with a solution. I know it's hard, even being the mother of 4 kids, it's sometimes hard to make a solution when everybody has a different request for dinner, so I appreciate it. And kind of to reiterate what Janice Mueller has said, I've had some concerns on the timing and moving quickly forward. And I would just like to know what would happen if we delayed it by 3 weeks or a month to the next meeting. What chain of effects would that start?
President Cross.
Yeah, can I tie that together with perhaps something that others have said too and respond to Regent Mueller a little bit?
Okay.
I think there's a misconception that if it comes under the system, that it wouldn't remain a separate institution, those units that come under the system. How all this gets worked out has to be figured out, but the UW colleges and UW Extension are 2 organizations with 1 chancellor and combined integrated systems, support systems. If those units come under the system without the head of that unit or as a transfer as an institution, I can agree with what you're arguing. So there would have to be, this wouldn't increase the people that report to the president that would come over as an institution, more focused in that area. The second part, and I'll get to that solution. The second part is the fiscal issues that you're talking about. How do we deliberately and thoughtfully disaggregate the budget that goes to colleges and extension appropriately? And in doing so, can we leverage what colleges and extension have done to accomplish some regional cost savings administrative effort to shift those resources to the academic side of the organization? We don't know that yet, because that has to be applied more broadly than just within the colleges. So if you look at the challenges that Marathon is facing, Manitowoc, both of them are right around 50% to 40% in terms of loss of enrollment. How do you maintain critical mass? And how do you get more of those students successfully through? The colleges are already dealing with cost challenges, funding challenges because of the enrollment decline and other factors. Well, how do we provide the support those students need? I have to spend less on administration and more on that direct support. And that's part of what Bernie was arguing about, Chancellor Patterson, Chancellor Leavitt. The resource issue has to be resolved. But colleges have money that goes directly to that campus, money that goes to the 4 regions, money that goes into the central pot, and a fund balance. So how are those distributed? That has to be worked out because it has to be disaggregated. I think Chancellor Blank made the comment that this is an announcement of a proposal. How we pull this together, we have to come back every month or every board meeting and brief the board on here's where we are, here's where we're going, here's the critical path, and how that would work. So I think those are a couple of issues that I think are important. I'm not disagreeing with the tremendous importance of fiscal integrity and deliberative process as it relates to finance. I fully intend that to happen through this process. Now, with respect to the time delay, and what would happen and why are you doing this, what's the pressure, Ray? You hear all of that. This is an announcement of a proposal. Now the work has to begin. I put a stake in the ground and I've said July 1 of 2018, let's get the reporting structure changed. UW colleges as an organization, UW Extension as an organization under one chancellor, heavily integrated administrative structure, will continue. Nothing's taking that away after July 1. A lot of those support processes will continue to exist. You can't just eliminate that. What has to happen by July 1? The reporting structures change, but there's nothing that says those things couldn't be moved a month or 2 months. There's nothing that says that. My argument is that I think it's time we make this decision for 2 strong reasons. I've been a part of 3 mergers. Jim Schmidt and I were in Minnesota together, and I was heavily part of that. I've been a part of a corporate merger. I've been a part of a foundational merger. The anxiety you create by stretching it out and the unknowns for employees and students. We will have enrollment drops at these 2-year colleges because of just what we're doing. How do you shorten that? You establish, here's where we're going, now let's work it out. Let's work our way through it. Let's figure it all out. But we know at the end of this, we're going to take care of those students and our employees in this process. And that's an important piece. There's already going to be anxiety. The more we stretch it out, the worse it gets. And that's a really primary lesson I learned in Minnesota and in the corporate sector as well. So I think that's important. I really do. What are we asking you to do today to approve the proposal? At any point, you could say, okay, well, we don't like this as we come forward. You have a right to, but get us working on this plan. Get us moving on this process. Let us surface problems we don't even think about right now. And that's really important.
Thank you, President Cross. Regent Atwell.
First of all, in case anyone gets confused, as I say a few things, I support the resolution. I do see it as a decision that has to be made. And a mentor of mine has told me many times, change before you have to. The reason why this process feels so sudden is because we've arrived at a point where something has to be done. And most of what I want to do is admonish us as Regents, the system leadership, and the chancellors to do a better job of helping our communities and ourselves understand what the demographic outlook is. I do agree with Regent Farrell, and I'd like to offer that I've done my part from a demographic point of view.
I've got 5.
And also offer that I'm reaching the limits of my capability to do so. And I'd like to commend my fellow Regent Erickson for doing her part. Look, Ray put a chart of the outlook for demography till 2040 for the state in the aggregate. And we've talked somewhat about different areas, but I think we owe it to ourselves so that we don't get backed into decisions that we have to make because there's no other choice other than to make a decision, to help our communities take a more honest look at their future, because they're very different. We've got different pockets of demography in the state. Obviously, Dane County appears, very healthy. Western Wisconsin, close to Minneapolis-St. Paul, is growing. Waukesha County is very strong. Some of the rim counties around Milwaukee, and clearly the decision to support a major investment in southeastern Wisconsin is going to have presumably an impact. The rest of the state needs a lot of help coming to terms with the situation they've found themselves in. And our system was created, I believe, at a time when kids like me were in public school. And the demographic paradigm that reigned then was we were going to be standing room only by now. And we've been a little slow as a culture to come to understand what it really looks like in places like Medford or Rhinelander or Sturgeon Bay. And those places are where they are, and it's hard to talk about, but I'm glad that people are starting to talk about it. But I think I support this resolution, but I really want to encourage us all to look down the road at where this system goes. That's a lot, seems like a lot of darkness, but there are other alternatives to how to provide education. So I guess that's really all I want to say, other than I don't like making decisions when there's no choice but to make them. And we arrive here because I guess we've been busy fighting about other things. I'm kind of new to all this, but we gotta look forward and not find ourselves backed into a corner. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Atwell. Go ahead, President Cross.
I think that's really important. Many of my critics have said, gee, surprise, surprise, what's going on here, Ray? Well, a year ago, we gave the board the first of our strategic plan, the 2020 Forward Plan. And we spent, prior to that, a lot of time going around the state, outstate as well, visiting communities, listening to over 5,000 people provide input. And we heard some consistent themes, some of what you're talking about. Demographics at every site was a primary issue. And that concerned businesses, that concerned community leaders like Brad and Dave. It concerned a ton of people. And when Regent Mueller mentioned the structural deficit within the colleges, it's about $5 million. And at this point, and we'll get that squared away. We will. They've done a marvelous job of making cuts. Boy, it's been, if you don't believe me, ask those folks. They have made enormous strides to bring their budget into balance. But they have about 24 to 30 months they're going to be out of cash in 24 to 30 months. It's probably a bit of an exaggeration, out of cash. But they're burning through cash, and they're making changes as fast as they can. And I think it's important that we make this change now before we have nothing left and we have no choice but to just close some campuses. And I think that's the kind of situation we're in from my perspective.
Regent Klein.
Thank you, Regent President Bailey. And I just want to say, in support of the motion, thank you, President Cross, for bringing it forward. Transformation is really hard in higher education. I've learned that since I've been on the Board of Regents. I want to, first of all, just say Chancellor Sandine did a marvelous job of taking costs out of the system. I sat with her on one occasion and listened to, all the good work she did in restructuring. And, this is probably just the next step in the process. I view it as a kickoff point for that next step in the process, but essential. It's very interesting to me because as you travel around the states and when you're in some communities where they have a very healthy four-year campus, they'll say, well, we have too many ships in the fleet. And my response is, well, whose ship are you trying to take out of service? And these communities depend on these access points. Students depend on the access points. So to come up with an idea for transformation that keeps these campuses open is critical. And I don't think, I'm a strong fan of fiscal responsibility, and I think there is promise of operational efficiency and in this proposal. There has to be that result at the end of the day. But I think we have to get started, and we have to put that stake in the ground and say we're going to do it. I also like very much what Chancellor Schmidt said about the power of and. The fact that we could keep all the ships in the fleet and have additional offerings would be a real service to our students. So I'm strongly in favor of this, and I'm so glad we're able to move ahead and look at a different way of doing business. This is really a moment, and so thank you. I'm going to be voting yes.
Thank you, Regent Klein. Regent Milner.
I want to respectfully push back on the idea of delay. I think it's critically important we make the decision today. We already have a commitment from you, President Cross, and from you, President Bailing, that not only will we be reporting back to us, but when I asked the question of join versus move, your answer was very clear. The movement we're talking about is based upon what we're going to be discovering as we move forward with planning with this initiative. So to delay this by 3 weeks just simply pulls out the process. We need to put the stake in the ground.
Thank you, Regent Milner. Regent Evers.
Yes, I'm a huge supporter of the college system. I think it's, well, my wife's a proud graduate of UW-Fond du Lac as a non-traditional student. So having them succeed across the state, I think it's critically important. And I'm all for full steam ahead, as Regent Stile talked about. But I will not vote for this, I will oppose this resolution. A smart Regent member once told me that bad process usually leads to bad policy. And I'm not saying the process is bad, but there are people in the state of Wisconsin that feel that they've been left behind in this process. And whether that's reality or perception doesn't make a hell of a lot of difference. And so I believe we can continue moving forward and planning and thinking about this and involving groups, including students, who we have all said are our top priority here. We have seen documents and commentary from our students groups across the state. And I just think, I think we can continue the process and involve people and come back with a baked proposal. That's my preference, and so I will be opposing this resolution.
Thank you. Regent Jones.
I just wanted to say that in my experience in the private sector with mergers and acquisitions, there are always surprises along the way before closing. Some of those surprises are good, some of those surprises are bad, sometimes they cancel each other out, but there's no real way of knowing ahead of time what these surprises are because they're surprises. And I think waiting a month doesn't buy us anything. So I'm a big advocate of let's get going. We're not committing to do any particular action, and we can reverse course if something goes wrong. I just think let's get started.
Thank you, Regent Jones. Regent Peterson.
So I just want to remark that this is one of the most engaged sessions we've had as a board ever. and almost everyone has had something here to say today. I think the reason for that is we've sort of pivoted away from the script, and that's a testament and a credit to President Cross and Region President Bailing. And we've brought forward, frankly, all of the stakeholders that have so much to say about this, whether it be students, faculty, staff, community leaders, our chancellors. I'm going to be a vigorous supporter of this because I have confidence that in each and every meeting from here until execution, we'll be getting regular and important progress reports. I too am a big, proponent of Regent Mueller and generally defer to all matters financial when she speaks. I want to know what the foundation is, what the baseline is, and what we can do to find operational efficiency as part of this. I think the biggest reason why we shouldn't defer action is largely because I heard from all of our chancellors their zest and zeal to meet with these campuses because they want to hear and listen. Virtually all of them told us their goal was not to prescribe how this was going to play out, but instead to listen to what are the things that we think we can solve for. Again, I am just duly impressed with how inclusive this conversation has been today. I certainly thank all of my region colleagues for putting forward their views, their concerns, because this will make this process better for us. I stand very supportive of this process, and I hope that it continues to be as productive as it's been here today. And to both of you, thank you for that.
Thank you. Regent Whitburn.
I think it's good for a board to support the leader whenever possible, when the proposition is reasonable. And as both Regent Higgins and Regent Farrow have explicitly pointed out, Ray Cross had Kathy Sandine's job. He got excellent marks as to his stewardship. And the truth is that but for his excellence in that position, he wouldn't be sitting over here now. He knows this college and extension turf well. In panels 1 and 2 that we heard earlier, we saw 3 people from up my way. When the 3 of them, plus myself, finish our drives tonight, we'll be within a bicycle ride or a long walk over to the Marathon County campus. From them, you heard no urging, demand, call for delay. Then we heard from our chancellor up that way, who was going to be the joining leader, and Bernie Madison introduced this word, urgency. Sometimes my colleagues and the people behind us are a little grumpy because of data that I often spiel here, being an individual that has taught to try to be data-driven as to decision-making. I got in my car yesterday driving down here, highly concerned about a 49% drop in the enrollment in the Marathon County campus. 49%. Having received a briefing from Chancellor Sandine, only to find out when the president puts the chart up on the screen, it's not 49%, it is 51%. This is a serious issue. It's deteriorating. It's time for us to step up and to move forward.
Would anyone else?
When I said that I haven't said anything.
Regent Delgado, go ahead.
I'd like to say, let's vote.
I've come to that consensus as well. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that this is such an important issue, we don't limit any discussion. Before we proceed to vote, anyone else? Okay. Seeing no objections, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. And thank you, everyone. I would echo the words of Regent Peterson. This has been a thoughtful discussion. I appreciate all the comments of our Regent colleagues. I'd also like to mention a point that a couple of Regents raised with me last month. And that is, we get so many emails, documents, and correspondence from people throughout the system and throughout the state. I just wanted to point out those letters, those emails are immensely important. As President Cross had mentioned, we post them on wisconsin.edu. Know that I, for one, read every document that I receive in relation to the board, and I hope they keep coming. So just an important point that I wanted to point out. So at this, President Cross, a thank you to you and your staff. We'll be meeting monthly on this item, and we appreciate your thoughtfulness in putting together a proposal. Thank you. Are there any petitions or memorials for this afternoon? If not, I'll ask Regent Vice President Peterson to make a motion to move us into closed session. It's going to take him a little bit, but here we go.
I move that the Board of Regents move into closed session to consider 3 UW-Madison honorary degree nominations as permitted by Section 19.851F of Wisconsin statutes, to consider a student request for review of a UW-Stevens Point disciplinary decision, and a student request for review of a UW-Milwaukee disciplinary decision as permitted by Sections 19.851A, F, and G of Wisconsin statutes, to confer with legal counsel regarding pending litigation, Animal Legal Defense Fund versus Board of Regents, Thau versus Board of Regents, Hagen versus Board of Regents, John Doe versus Board of Regents, Bank First National versus UW Oshkosh Foundation, Board of Regents versus Sonleitner and Wells, University of Wisconsin Oshkosh Foundation, Inc. versus Board of Regents, UW Oshkosh Foundation, Inc. Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing and potential litigation as permitted by Section 19.851G Wisconsin statutes, to consider personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons relating to the UW Oshkosh Foundation matter which, if discussed in public, would likely have a substantial effect upon the reputation of such persons as permitted by Section 19.851F Wisconsin statutes, and finally, to consider annual personnel evaluations of chancellors as permitted by Section 19.851C Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. May I have a second? Roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Regent Atwell.
Bob.
Robert.
Bob. Say yes.
Yes.
Regent Bailing.
Yes.
Regent Delgado.
Yes.
Regent Erickson.